I want you to get to know my wife Carol some. And Carol, I want to ask you a question, okay?
Okay.
Have I ever told you how precious you are?
Yeah, all the time.
All the time. All the time. That's because you are precious to me, Carol, and I want the whole world to know it, including my daughters and Marilyn. It's okay, because you are precious. I always tell Carol that she's more precious to me than anything in this world because she's my wife, and she ought to be number one, and she is. But I always tell Carol that she's precious, and it's something that I'll never let her forget. Are you glad that I came to Maine?
Yeah.
You're happy to be married to me?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Carol. Let's see here. Here, this is my wife, Carol, and my precious sweetheart. And I want everybody to know that I'm very deeply in love with this woman. This woman pleases me more than any other woman ever has. And she's right after my own heart. And I believe she's real pretty and real beautiful too. Many times I tell Carol, and I believe this and I mean it, that I feel like I'm married to a beautiful star with the heart of an angel. I believe sometimes that I'm married to an angel. And that's how much I love this woman, and that's what I think of this woman. I'm verily a very happily married man. And I don't mind if the whole world knows it. You see? This is a precious wife. And I love this woman with all my heart. Don't I, Carol?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Like Carol always says, you love all of me. And I say, yep, every bit of you, every part of you. And I want the whole world to know it. You know, this is a precious woman. I love this woman. This is the best woman I ever could have had. And I tell her that all the time. I could not have had a better wife than Carol. She's the best wife a man could ever have. I keep telling Carol over and over and over that I've never felt so good with a woman, I've never felt so right with a woman. And I know that she's not only the best I've ever had, she's the best I ever could have had. And that's my personal feelings every day with Carol. I love this woman. She's very sweet. And she's everything I ever wanted and loved in a woman. That's all I got to say. I just want to end it by saying I'm still in love with this woman. And she's the greatest, she's the best woman I've ever had. She's right after my own heart. Everything's perfect harmony. I couldn't ask for a better wife. I mean, we get along like two peas in a pot, don't we?
Right.
I really love this woman. But anyway, I'm going to let you go. Okay, here Carol and I are making a video for my friends on Facebook. The first thing I want to say is that today is January 22nd, 2014, and this is my twin daughter's birthday today. Their birthday is January 22nd. So, first thing I want to do is say happy birthday to my twin daughters, Chrissy and Carrie. So happy birthday, Carrie. Happy birthday, Chrissy. And I hope you have a nice birthday today.
Happy birthday, Chrissy and Carrie.
Having said that, I want to say to you all that I want my Facebook friends, some of you are family, like sister and nieces and nephews, and some are my daughters and my grandchildren, and then I have friends on here. And I want you all in Minnesota, especially, to get to know my wife Carol, because some of you don't even know Carol. You know of her, you see her pictures on Facebook and all that, but you don't really get to see her much. Carol and I have made 2 trips back to St. Paul since I've been married to her, in 2006 and in 2008. And so my family members have met her for a brief period of time, not too long of a time, but we're just sending you an updated video now. so you can get to know her now. I gotta talk about something else real quick here. I've been doing some talking and decision making, you know, if I'm gonna visit Minnesota, all the way to should Carol and I move to Minnesota. And, you know, the thing is, I have daughters and grandkids in Minnesota and sisters and friends. And, you know, but then on the other hand, the state of Maine here, this is Carol's home state. This is all Carol's ever known. And so I get sort of caught between my wife and my family and friends back in Minnesota. And I've had to do a lot of soul searching and a lot of decision making. But you got people, I want you to understand something. Carol and I, a few years ago, lived in our own house. But it became a financial and physical hardship. Because even though I can have a lot of energy and do a lot of work sometimes, there's other times when I can get so weak and so dizzy that I'll collapse right to the floor. And a house requires work, from shoveling driveways to cutting grass to any work that has to be done around the house. And, you know, I don't want to do it anymore. But not only that, I may croak someday, I may die before Carol does. And if something should happen to me, I don't want Carol to be left in a situation that she can't deal with or handle. That was another reason we gave up the house. Right now we're renting out half a house in Waterville Public Housing. This is half a house. And even this is too much. I shovel the driveway. I have a driveway right outside the door here, but I don't want to do it no more. But it's not just that. If someday something happens to me, I don't want to have Carol stuck dealing with that driveway by herself. And so Waterville Public Housing also has an apartment building here for senior people and disabled people and retired people, just like St. Paul, Minneapolis does. And they have an old school here. There used to be an old school, grade school here. And in the 1970s, they remodeled it and converted it into an apartment building. And they have some pretty good sized apartments there. And that's where I want Carol to be if something happens to me someday. If she has to live life alone, because it's a situation she can deal with. It's public housing. The rent is based on your income. Carol and I are both retired. We're both drawing Social Security, and that's the way it is. That's all I have to say about that. I just, thought I would, explain to people what my situation is here. If Carol and I were to move to Minnesota and something happened to me there, Carol could end up stranded in Minnesota. And she doesn't really want to be there by herself because she may not be able to afford to move back to Maine. See, if I'm alive and we move from one state to another state, I can rent out a U-Haul truck and move furniture. I can do that stuff. If something happens to me in Minnesota and we live there, Carol would not be able to rent a U-Haul and get herself back to Maine. And even if she could, she may not have the finances for it. She may not be able to afford that. Carol would end up being stuck in Minnesota the rest of her life alone there. And I don't want Carol to end up in that situation. And that's why. That's why I won't bring her and move. That's why I've decided not to move to Minnesota with Carol. This way, if something happens to me, she's already set up here, where she needs to be. Carol needs to be in Maine, in her hometown here. This ain't really her hometown. Carol was really raised in Skowhegan, Maine. It's just that in Waterville, Carol's lived here for over 30 years, about 35 years now, isn't it?
Yeah.
She's lived here a long time. I don't like the idea that I can't live in Minnesota necessarily. But, I have a wonderful wife here. And I have to always see things from her point of view, because that's my job as her husband. And, right, Carol?
Right.
Yeah, she agrees with that. She would. Why shouldn't she? I'd be surprised if she didn't agree with that. But anyway, Carol, say goodbye to everybody.
Bye.
Bye, people. Carol has always been raised in a small town. Carol does not understand or know how to survive in a city. She would be lost trying to take a bus. Carol has never taken a city bus in her lifetime. And she needs to be somewhere where she knows how to cope with things if something should happen to me. And I know that if I were to come to Minnesota by myself, I'd be constantly worrying about Carol home alone, all by herself. She doesn't have kids, she doesn't have anyone to be there with her. But there is some good news here. Waterville Public Housing has spoken with me this last week and said that apartments coming open in May, or maybe June at the latest, but hopefully by May 1st, where we can get into a senior citizen Waterville housing apartment building. Why is that good for Carol and I? Because this is a choice place. It's in a perfect location in Waterville. Another thing is it has a shuttle bus which is like their city bus here. A shuttle bus that goes past that building 3 times. It stops right at the building, right at the front door and the back door, going both directions. And that bus runs a route just like any other city bus does, except it's a shuttle bus, and it'll take people wherever they want to go, to the grocery store, to it'll drop them off there, and then it'll pick them up on the way back, or to the pharmacy or doctor. You tell the driver where you want to go, and he'll drop you there. Period. 3 times a day. Either direction. And if something happened to me, Carol could function. See, Carol doesn't drive, and she never will drive. And so if something happens to me, Carol's going to be stranded, without a car. She's going to have a way to get back and forth to the stores, and she's going to have to be in a town she's familiar with, and a town that she knows how to function in. Now that's Carol's end. That's what I want. How I want Carol to be set up. If something should happen to me someday. I can't just make a decision for me. Every decision I make has to involve my wife as well. I have to come up with a solution that Carol can live with. And quite honestly, if something were happen to me someday and Carol had to be alone by herself, she does not need to be in Minnesota, nowhere, because she just wouldn't know her way around. She doesn't know anyone, she'd be a stranger there. And another thing is, Carol here has medical problems too. And Carol's had to go through a lot of doctors and nurses and counselors and everything else in the last 20 years. And her whole medical records here in Maine. People know Carol, the doctors know Carol here, her nurses know Carol here, they know her situation. And so Carol needs to be in Maine. It's not that I don't want to be there in Minnesota, it's just that I have a wife to think about now, and I have to think about her welfare. If something happens to me, how will she be able to survive? How will she be able to get along?
Lord my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the worlds thy hands have made, I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, Then sings my soul, my Savior God to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. And when I think that God his Son not sparing sent him to die, I scarce can take it in that on the cross my burden gladly bearing, he bled and died to take away my sin. Then sings my soul, my Savior God to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. And Christ shall come with shout of acclamation and take me home. What joy shall fill my heart? Then I shall bow in humble adoration and there proclaim, my God, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God to thee. How great thou